Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. And now, celebrating 15 years of broadcasting, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, whether you're tuning in on the radio dial in my home state of Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM. We welcome you all back to our show. Also, those tuning in through online affiliates around the world, including our iHeartRadio family. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. We're excited to welcome leadership expert Sally Helgesen to our program today. She's the co-author of a book that I really enjoyed that I think both women and men can learn a lot from. It's called How Women Rise, Break the 12 Habits, Holding You back from your next raise, promotion, or job, and I think really so many other great things in life. We'll talk to Sally not only about how this book came about with her co-author Marshall Goldsmith, but also what it's been like for her to already see the responses to the book as well as the conversations that are taking place around it. Sally, hello to you and welcome to the program.
It's wonderful to be here, Cyrus. Terrific.
Yeah, the pleasure is definitely all mine. You know, there is so much in this book for us to cover. And as I said, as I was reading the book, of course, for one thing, knowing I was going to be able to speak with you about it, I thought, there are so many things that even I have had to learn, that you address in this book. So I think, like I said, both men and women can appreciate it. Is that part of what you've been hearing, Sally, from people as the book now has been released?
That's exactly right, Cyrus. In fact, one question I often get is, what has surprised you most about the book? And I would say the number one thing that has surprised me the most is the number of men who have told me that they resonate with some of the behaviors that we discuss in the book, which I've identified, along with my co-author, as the behaviors most likely to get in the way of women as they seek to rise. We had my co-author, Marshall Goldsmith, and I were really looking at his fabulous book, which is called What Got You Here Won't Get You There, which is about the behaviors that get in the way of the most successful people. And I had brought to his attention that given that he was using his coaching base of super successful senior executives who are mostly male, that a lot of behaviors had gotten left out of that book, which I had seen in my 30 years of working with women leaders as getting in women's ways. But what I've come to realize, and this goes right to your question, is that there are a lot of men who exhibit some of these habits and behaviors as well. They may not be the super aggressive top CEO types, but it's really very interesting to me. So I'm seeing that these are really just some of the behaviors that got left out of the original book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, but perhaps for people who are a little more modest, a little more, I don't want to say self-effacing, but maybe a little more realistic about what their achievements are and who feel inhibited from really sharing how great they are with others.
For sure. And Sally, I have to say, too, another thing that came to my mind when I was reading this book is that, and I know, again, going back to my own personal experience and kind of thinking about it as I was reading, is that one of the things I think that stops a lot of people, and again, I throw us guys in there, too, is fear, right? And we don't fear of someone else not seeing in us what we see in ourselves, but also what the ramifications might be if it's taken the wrong way. Maybe instead of getting a raise, we our hours get cut, or, we end up losing our job as we're seen as being difficult. You write something in the book early on that I want to actually read and let's talk about, because I think it's in the chapter, The 12 Habits, and this is what you write about when you know something isn't working but you keep doing it. For those who have the print edition, it's on page 54, and it says, if you know a behavior isn't working for you and you persist on doing it anyway, that's not being authentic, that's just being stubborn. So whenever you hear yourself proclaiming that something is just not you, you might want to question your motivation. An excessive devotion to a particular self-image can be a rationale for remaining stuck. And I think that is, when I read that, I thought, wow. So a lot of times, even throughout this book, Sally, wouldn't you agree, a lot of what's standing in our way is ourselves?
Yes, and that's basically the idea of this book. The book is about behaviors and habits that are likely to hold successful people back. And those behaviors and those habits come from within us. So if, for example, one of the behaviors that I've found people really resonating with as I go around the country speaking about the book. I'm in Minneapolis today. Last week I was in Memphis. I was in Houston. I'm all over the country talking about this. One of the behaviors I hear that is very resonant is expecting others to spontaneously notice and value what we contribute, because we're afraid, as you put it. Fear is at the root of seeming like a showboat or a self-promoting jerk if we call attention to what we're contributing. And that can really hold us back. And so that expectation, we expect others to notice, don't, and they often don't, because why? They're busy. They're focused on what they're doing. And when we expect others and they don't notice what we're contributing, we can feel disappointed, we can feel disheartened, we can feel like, oh, maybe I don't belong in this place after all. And that can be discouraging. But what we're really doing is we're keeping ourselves stuck because we're setting up a false either-or. We're thinking either we're a self-promoting jerk who's trying to suck up all the air in the room, or we're a nice, modest, wonderful person who's contributing value, but because we're doing good work, we believe other people should notice. And that's a trap, and it's a trap we set for ourselves.
For sure. It's when you mentioned self-promotion, Sally, it's one of the things I wanted to share with our audience in Habit 1, reluctance to claim your achievements. You will write this on page 73, and again, I love the fact that you guys really get to the heart of it. You write this: if you don't find a way to speak about the value of what you're doing, you send a message that you don't put much value on it. And if you don't value it, why should anyone else? We don't think about it that way, though. And I think that's the funny thing. We don't think about it in that sense and the importance of it. And then you go on, of course, to give the example of a salesperson. One of the reasons why there are some salespeople that are so successful is because they're able to say what they're able to deliver, why you should deal with them. And I think that's the thing. Or do you think examples like that can help us all, Sally, in kind of being able to change the way we see ourselves when it comes to self-promotion, as well as even, giving information about ourselves and our skills?
I really do, and I think that you picked out a very good example there. Successful salespeople are successful when they really believe in their product. That's what really makes the difference between a successful and authentic salesperson and someone who's just showing up, and hoping they get a check cut for them at the end of the week. Believing in your product. And when you think of being, we're all in a very busy and very crowded world right now. And it's up to us to draw attention to what we can contribute. The technology's out there. It's not the world our parents grew up in, where you just get a good job, you stay with that job, you believe that you'll remain employed with that employer for the rest of your life, and once you get the job, your work is kind of done in terms of the promotion of self part of it. We're in a different world now, and we do need to think to some degree like salespeople, but remembering that successful salespeople are really invested in and believe in the value of what they're selling, I think can make a difference for us, because each one of us needs to think through what is my real value? What are my best talents? What do I have to contribute? And how can I get known for those talents? So stepping up and taking that responsibility is really essential for success in today's very competitive, short-term attention-oriented, and constantly chopping and changing to some degree unstable work environment. That's essential to being able to negotiate it successfully. So really having that sense of what you can contribute and asking yourself those questions. What am I best at? What do I most enjoy? What do people like about working with me? What do they say they like about working with me? Those are really important questions.
For sure. And there's another great example of that in Habit 9, minimizing, that I'm going to talk to you with for our audience, Sally. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Sally Helgesen to our program today. She's not only a top leadership expert, but also she's the co-author of the new book, How Women Rise, Break the 12 Habits Holding You Back from Your Next Raise, Promotion, or Job, written with Marshall Goldsmith. We're going to remind you all at the end of our segment how you can get your own copy of it. And you will kind of are able to, we can tell by the way the book is written, Sally, kind of go back and forth in discussing certain things. One of the things that we find that Marshall talked about when it came to you is in chapter number 9, minimizing. He talks about an event that you were attending in New Orleans and what the response was like from women and men. And what I picked up on in that I wanted to ask you about before we got into minimizing was that he picked up on that you noticed the body language that was different between the men and the women. When did you realize the gift that you have, Sally, to be able to not only to articulate these things like you have in the book How Women Rise, but also to be able to read people and their reactions to things that are being said?
You know, Cyrus, I think most of us who pay attention to what's going on do have the capacity to really notice what's happening with other people and to mark that down. What happens, though, is as we allow the nature of work today to distract us, or as we get very, very focused on just what we're doing at that moment, we can block out some of those intuitions and some of that information about what's happening with other people and how what we're talking about or how the experience they're having is landing on them. And when we do that, I think we diminish our ability to really make an impact in our environment. So in that particular situation where I was at a board meeting in New Orleans, and there were men and women both there, and it was very crowded, and plane was late, so people were coming in late. And what I was noticing was that the body language of the women, when people would come in late, they were all about minimizing and taking up as little space as possible in order to demonstrate with, I think, a certain degree of warmth and welcome that to other people that there was, in fact, room for them. Whereas what I saw with the men who were kind of sprawled out in chairs and had stuff, grouped around them on the desk. Keep in mind it was a board meeting, so a lot of people there were, to some degree, big shots. And they were making no signal to the other people that there was room for them. And what struck me about this was not that women should be more like men and, sprawl and take up two chairs and put their arm around another chair and, lean back, but more that it seemed to me that as women in their effort to show that others were welcome, were willing to minimize their own ability to hold their space. And holding your space, being present, showing up for where you are and who you're with is an essential aspect of demonstrating leadership presence. So it is very important to be mindful about occasions when you may be diminishing your own physical presence, either through your body language or through the words you choose to use, because that is always going to undermine your ability to position yourself as a leader and send the message, I belong here. I have a right to be here. I have a right to take up space.
Right. And, I have to say, again, trying to make personal application of this, Sally, growing up here in Mississippi, where modesty and being humble and putting others ahead of oneself is something that I was taught early on in life. this can really be contradictory to us, which is why I think it becomes a habit for so many of us, because we're so used to, and until this day, I'm still very uncomfortable with compliments. I then have to find something about another person to be able to compliment. I think for that same reason, I want to read what you all wrote, though, on page 149, because this really, like I said, there's so many great pieces in this book that I hope our audience takes away. And you wrote this: not only do others read you as diminished, and again, as you were just saying, when you seem to be kind of acknowledging the existence of others more so than yourself, but you're right, you begin to feel that way yourself. And I think that is such an interesting thing and I don't think, again, that's something we don't realize. When you send that message to someone, Sally, when you allow them to know that that's exactly what they're doing by minimizing themselves, what has it been like for you to see the light bulb going off about that habit?
Well, it's really been interesting, Cyrus, and I think one of the things that's been so helpful and has been very influential in the whole field of leadership development over the last 15 years is all that we're learning from neuroscience about how the brain works. And one of the lessons that neuroscience has taught us is that your physical posture and how you're using your voice not only reflects how you're feeling, but impacts how you're feeling. One of the things that I've noticed for years, and I'm hardly alone in this, it's become almost a joke, is how often women will needlessly apologize almost for opening the door, come into a room and say, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry. In fact, people have become self-conscious about this, many women, and try to work to eradicate this habitual kind of apology. But what's important about it is that it does diminish ability to make an impact in whatever situation you're walking in. Because if you're walking into a situation and you're apologizing for being there, that very act of apologizing is going to make you feel as if your right to be there is to some extent provisional or not firmly established. And then that's going to impact your capacity to really be able to make a difference, to show up, to share the best of what you can. So what we're trying to do here really is to help people who are in a situation where they demonstrate a lack of confidence that may not be authentic or may not really indicate, may not represent what they bring to the table, to help them get over the kind of habits that can keep them diminished or stuck. Through behaviors, we often think, that you first have to address the root causes and then address the behaviors. Marshall and I have both worked as coaches for many years, and what we have found is that helping people address behaviors first can really short-circuit a lot of development work, because it's less efficient to have to go back and figure out everything that happened to you in your childhood or your early work experiences before you start to make changes.
And I think that's the thing. I'm so glad you mentioned coaching, because that's addressed in the next part that I want to talk about from the book, Sally, as we wrap up this conversation. I want to say again, for those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Conversations Live. My guest for this segment has been leadership expert Sally Helgesen. We've been talking about the new book, How Women Rise, Break the 12 Habits Holding You Back from Your Next Raise, Promotion, or Job. If you all came in late, we're going to tell you here in just a bit how you can go back and catch the replay of this conversation completely for free. The last thing that I wanted to address, Sally, because it can be overwhelming for people who have these habits ingrained in them, who might feel as though, there's no way I can change this. One of the things that you all do encourage people is that don't feel like you have to do it by yourself. For one, now we have this book, How Women Rise. You mentioned coaching. Of course, as you say in the book, coaching can be expensive, but hey, we all have family. We all have friends. We have individuals that we trust, that we can be able to go to. How important has that component been like for you, Sally, to show people, to find someone in your circle that can help you to kind of not only to be able to identify these things, but also to make sure that the changes stick?
I think if there's one single message, Cyrus, that I would want to engage that I would want to really land on people from How Women Rise. It's that engaging allies, supporters, friends, and colleagues who can help you make the behavioral changes you want to make is not only essential, but also helps create new support and new opportunities for you. Coaching is very effective, but coaching is expensive, and everyone certainly cannot, have access to a skilled career or executive coach. But everyone can have access to colleagues that will help them hold themselves accountable for the changes they want to make. A quick example. You have identified sort of the opposite of minimizing. You've identified, say, that you often lack being crisp or concise in your speech, that you share too much information, too many words. You've gotten feedback that people maybe perceive you as all over the map or sharing too much. So you want to begin to make some changes in that. Rather than, just trying to do it on your own, ask some friends and colleagues, I'm going into this meeting. I'm trying to become more concise in my communication. Would you watch and see how I'm doing and just give me some feedback? And then when they give you feedback, just say thank you. Just take that into account. You don't need to say, well, the reason I did this was because X, Y, or Z. They're giving you feedback. It's a gift. The appropriate response is to thank them. You can also ask people who you see who are really good at something that you feel you're struggling with, what makes you so good at this? Can you give me any tips in terms of what you do? One of the greatest things about enlisting allies to help you also is that it advertises the fact that you're changing. Again, it's a very busy work environment today. So if you have a reputation, say, for being kind of self-effacing, or like what you told me, being someone who cannot accept a compliment, people aren't going to automatically say to themselves, oh, wow, Cyrus is really getting good at accepting compliments right now. They're not necessarily thinking of it. But if you're enlisting other people and saying, I'm trying to get more comfortable just saying thank you when someone gives me a compliment rather than brushing it aside or diminishing it, and they let you know what they say, hey, you did great in that meeting or in that situation. That sends the message that you're changing, and they're much more likely to notice. And you're better able to shed a reputation you may have developed based on behaviors that you're moving away from.
Right. I think that's a great thing. It's so many great tips in this book, Sally, that Marshall and you have been able to share, and that's why I know our audience will really enjoy it. Again, everyone, we've been speaking with Sally Helgesen. She's the co-author of the new book, How Women Rise, Break the 12 Habits Holding You Back from Your Next Raise, Promotion, or Job, written with Marshall Goldsmith. You all can get the book through our friends at Amazon.com or through your favorite bookstore. If your favorite bookstore does not have it, make sure you request it. They will be more than happy to order it for you. And you all can also stay connected with Sally. As you've heard her say, she's crisscrossing the country right now, but her website is just her name, SallyHelgesen.com. Again, that's SallyHelgesen.com is where you all can find her there. Sally, I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll come back and share with us again.
Oh, I'd love to, Cyrus. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have as well. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late and missed part of the conversation with Sally, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media sites. So head over to Facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go to Twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. You all make a great one.